Shh. Okay. Good afternoon. Welcome to our 4 o'clock session. I want to make sure to note that at 4:30 we will have Mincha, God willing, in the small Beit Midrash down at the hall. Mincha followed by Maro quickly, and then back in here for the 5 o'clock class. Also, we have our ice cream siyum at 9 p.m. So make sure to stick around. We got lots of ice cream. Grateful to Yeshivat Or Chaim for, again, enabling us to use our home Beit Midrash for this program today. Shari Shemayim for the copies of Tanakh. And Nathan Kirsch, thank you for dedicating this the shir in loving memory of his parents, Lou and Ruth Kirsch. Zichron livracha. Okay. So when I think about Batsheva, my mind automatically goes to the story I heard a bunch of years ago about a man who went away to an assertiveness convention. You know the story? The man went away to the assertiveness convention, and he came home and he said to his wife, "I've learned a lot while I was away, and things are going to be different around here now." He says, "Someone's going to make me breakfast every morning and dinner. Every morning. Breakfast every morning and dinner every night. And you know who that's going to be? You. Someone's going to prepare my newspaper, run me a hot bath. And you know who that's going to be? You. And someone's going to lay out my clothing and bathe me and dress me. You know who that's going to be?" And she says, "Yeah, the Chaver Kadisha." That's what happens. That's what happens when you start up with Batsheva. Don't mess with Batsheva. You're not going to win. And what I want to talk about is the iron that she displays and what we're supposed to learn from it. And again, as with all the other shiurim, we're just getting a taste of it, getting an outline. There's a lot more to see. But we have 3 main stories that involve Batsheva. So now we're going back to the time of David HaMelech, a little more than 3,000 years ago. He is king in Yerushalayim. The first story is one which we could spend the entire day on in its own right, and we're not going to, is the story of David and Uriah and Batsheva, found in Shmuel Bet, chapters 11 and 12, pages 747 to 751 on the sheet. But we're familiar with the guts of the story. Uriah is a soldier in David's army. David is out wandering on the roof, and he looks down and sees a woman bathing. She is not on her roof. You have to read the text carefully. He is on a roof, and he looks down and he sees her bathing, and he is attracted to her, and he has her brought to him. And as the story plays out, she turns out to be pregnant. He tries to get Uriah brought home from the battlefield to be with her, apparently wanting to cover up what has happened. Uriah does not play along. Uriah is killed. He is sent out to the front, and he is killed. And David summons Batsheva to him. That's all in chapter 11. Then in chapter 12, we find out that David is going to suffer for what he has done and for marrying Batsheva. And in fact, they have a child, and the child dies. And then there's another child who becomes Shlomo HaMelech, King Solomon. We have to come back to him later. That's your basic story, of which, again, a lot more discussion is needed. But 3 striking notes from this story. First of all, in the psukim, in the text in Tanakh, as well as in the Mefarshim, in the commentators, in the Midrashim, in the Gemara, nobody blames Batsheva, meaning it is understood that Batsheva is a pawn in this game. She does not have a choice about what she is doing. That's number 1. Number 2, later on, we are going to see Batsheva make a claim that David promised her that her son, Shlomo, is going to be the king. In the story, it's not clear where David ever made such a promise. Take a look, please, on your sheet at source number 1, where Radak attempts to demonstrate where we find this promise. Actually, first see the text inside. So chapter 12, sentence 24, it's on page 751. After their first child has died, sentence 24 says, David comforted, Vayinachem David es Batsheva ishto. David comforted his wife Batsheva, and then they have this son who is Shlomo. So now to the source sheet where Radak comments, Haisa nimnas milihizakek lo. She refuses him. Amrlo, she says, Hayeled meis mipnei ha'avon. She says the child died because of the sin. And even if I were to have a child who would survive, what would happen? Everybody would mock him. Everybody would shame him because of the way our relationship began. And David says to her, Hakel machaliha avon. God said he forgave me for the sin. And the first child I have from you is going to be the king. So Radak sees that his comfort for her, which draws her to him, is the promise that their son is going to become king. That's one source for the oath. The other source, flipping to the end of your Tanakh, page 1923, from Divrei Hayamim Aleph, Divrei Hayamim Chronicles 1, chapter 22, you find the text say the following regarding Shlomo. David summons Shlomo and tells him to build a Beis HaMikdash, and we're told, David said to Shlomo, my son, I'm just reading out of the Art Scroll translation because not everybody has a Tanakh in front of them. My son, I had in mind to build a temple for the name of Hashem, my God. The word of Hashem came to me saying, you have shed much blood, you have made great wars, you shall not build a temple for my name's sake. You have shed much blood onto the ground before me. Behold, a son will be born to you. He will be a man of rest. I shall grant him rest from all his enemies all around. His name will be Shlomo, ... So that's the identification of Shlomo as the next king. And it's possible that David actually gives that information to them, to Batsheva, and that's where he makes this promise. The child is identified also as the beloved of God in another passage. Okay. That's your second note from the story. So your first note from the story is the text doesn't blame Batsheva. Number two is that David swears to her that Shlomo, her son, is going to be king. And third, the story sets up Batsheva in opposition to those who will not want to see her son gain the throne. Meaning, if you take a look at source number 3, Abarbanel writes, Lo kivnu Yisrael limrod b'David Malkam. When Avshalom led his rebellion, the Jews didn't mean to rebel against David. Lola hamiso chalila b'chas. They don't want to kill David. What they do want is to put Avshalom in his place to prevent Shlomo from being king. Because Shlomo comes out of this story with Batsheva, they don't want Shlomo as king. So Batsheva is now in opposition to all of the people who don't want to see Shlomo take the throne. That's your first story, in which, again, Batsheva doesn't have anything to do. Batsheva is, in fact, taken advantage of. But now we get to the second story. And the second story is on page 797, the beginning of the book of Melachim, the book of Kings. And here is where things get interesting. Well, I thought the first part was interesting too, fine, but you know what I mean. Because here in the beginning of Melachim, we are told that David HaMelech is old. Zakein ba bayamim. He has entered his last years. He cannot be warmed. They bring him Abishaga Shunamit, that's its own story. But in the midst of this, as David is frail, and as David is on what will be in fact his deathbed, Adoniyahu ben Chagit, one of David's sons, says, Ani amloch, I am going to be king. He launches a coup, and he sets himself up with Rechavu Parashim, with a chariot, with riders, with 50 people who are going to run in front of him. And David had never rebuked him, we are told. And he's a handsome young man, and he thinks that he is going to become king, and not Shlomo. So what happens? We jump to Pasuk Yud Aleph, sentence 11. Nasan the Navi, Natan the prophet, comes to Batsheva, and he says, Halo Shamat, did you hear? Adoniyahu ben Chagit has taken the throne, and our master David is unaware. Now here's what you should do, he says to Batsheva. I'm going to give you advice, he says to Batsheva, and you will save yourself, and you'll save your son Shlomo. Go to David HaMelech and tell him, you know, you swore saying that Shlomo is going to be the next king and he's going to sit on my throne. So why is it that Adoniyahu is in fact taking the throne? And while you're talking, I'm going to come in and I'm going to support you. That's the plan that Nasan provides for Batsheva. Tell me something. Why doesn't Natan go in himself? Why does he need Batsheva to go in first? Isn't that weird? You're a Navi. You're a prophet. Nasan has confronted David on David's worst day. Why in the world does Nasan now need Batsheva to come in first? So some suggest it's because he feels like he has a conflict of interest, because he had been the one who gave the prophecy that Shlomo was going to be the king. So it's kind of weird for him to come in now and make this point. The Alshech, Moshe Alshech, says it's a practical concern. What if Adoniyahu wins? He doesn't want to be found to be on the Shlomo side of things if Adoniyahu becomes king. Maybe, but he says to her, it's really simple. Go to David, remind him that he made this promise, and all will be good. That's what he wants her to do. But now look what Batsheva actually does in sentence 15. Batsheva walks into the throne room where the king is. She bows before the king. The king, David, says, what do you want? Sentence 17, she says, Adoni, my master. Atanish bata b'Hashem Elokecha la'amasecha. You swore by God to your servant. Ki Shlomo v'nech yimloch acharai. That Shlomo is going to be the next king. Hu yeshev al kisi. He'll sit on my throne. Now, as far as Nasan is concerned, job's done. Right? She said everything that Nasan told her to say. But she doesn't stop talking. Ve'ata, she says, and now, Hine Adoniya malach. Adoniya is king. Ve'ata Adoniya melech lo yadata. And you didn't even know. Vayizbach shor umari v'tzon larav. And he's slaughtering animals. Vayikra l'chol b'nei hamelech. And he called all the princes. And Evyasar, the Kohen Gadol, Yoav, your general, and Shlomo, your servant, he didn't invite them. Ve'ata, and you, Adoni hamelech, king. Einecho Yisrael alecha. Everybody is looking to you to tell them mi yeshev kisei Adoni hamelech acharav, to say who's going to sit on the throne. Vayakishchav Adoni hamelech avosav, because she says when you return to your ancestors, then ani ubni Shlomo chataim, we're going to look like sinners. Doesn't mean sinners in the sense of right and wrong, transgression. It means we will be outcasts. We will be cast as rebels against the throne because Adoniyahu is going to be king. Says Abarbanel, I think I brought it for you on the sheet in source number 4. See the beauty of the words that Batsheva uses. She improves on what Nasan the Navi told her. First of all, she approaches David with added tachanunim, pleading, my master. She emphasizes the oath, and she uses David's own words, meaning she speaks in the first person. She says, you said Shlomo is going to sit on my throne. When you use his own words, you cause him to remember the words that he had in fact used. And she says, you didn't know. Where have you been? You're lying here in this room. You have an entire kingdom to whom you are responsible. And you know what? Your son Adoniyahu, while you were lying in this room, made a big feast. How inappropriate is that? His father is dying, right? He makes a big feast. He has this huge guest list. He skipped the good guys like Evyasar, right? And instead he has the bad guys. And it continues. She says, the Jews are all looking to you. What she's saying is, don't think the nation is on his side. The Jews are looking to you. They want to hear from you. And what's going to be with me and what's going to be for Shlomo, we are afraid for our lives. That's what she says. 2 other interesting notes. Sentence 28. It's on page 799. After she spoke, Nasan the Navi came in and did his presentation. After that, sentence 28, then Vayan HaMelech David, Vayomer David HaMelech declares, Kir'u li lebas shava. Summon Batsheva to me. I don't understand. She was in the room. What do you mean, summon Batsheva to me? The answer is she left the room. Batsheva is very subtle. She doesn't want to be seen to be running the show. She makes her presentation, and she leaves when Nathan speaks. So that David calls her back into the room. And of course, we know the way the story plays out. David shuts down Adoniyahu and he coronates Shlomo. That's story number 2. Story number 1 was how she ended up married to David in the first place. And story number 2 is how she subverts the coup by Adoniyahu. But the best part is the third story. Take a look, please, at chapter 2, sentence 12. It's the top of page 803. Shlomo is now on the throne. Sentence 12, right there. Shlomo is on the throne. Adoniyahu, son of Chagit, comes to Batsheva. And she says to him, Hashalom Boecha, are you here in peace? And he says, you bet. I have something that I'd like to bring up, he says to her. Now, before you know what it is that he wants to bring up, take a look on your sheet at source number 5, where we learn from Mishnah in Sanhedrin, you're not allowed to marry the king's widow. That's not allowed. A king is allowed to marry the widow of the previous king, and that's it, like with David and Shaul. But that's it. So now come back into our story. He, Adoniyahu, says to Batsheva, you know, I was supposed to be king. That's a good opener. The Yadat ki li haisa melucha. I was supposed to be king. Everybody had turned to me to be the next king. Angry much? And instead it was subverted and it went to my brother. Because God wanted it that way. Fine. And now, I have one thing to ask of you. Please don't turn me down. She says, speak. One word. Just like she said to him before when he came in and he said, I have something for you. She said, daber, speak. She gives him one word. Vayomer, and he said, Imri na l'Shlomo hamelech. Please speak to Shlomo on my behalf. Ki lo yashiv es panayach. He won't turn you down. You're his mother. V'yiten lias Avishag shunamit liisha. I want to marry Avishag, the woman who had been brought in to David when he was in his old age. I would like you to please argue that on my behalf. Knowing full well, only the next king gets the wife of the previous. Was Avishag a wife or not, doesn't matter. It's appearances, it's optics. He wants to be seen as the next king, and he comes to Batsheva because he can't walk into Shlomo and makes this demand because the next words are off with his head, right? So he says, I'm going to go to Batsheva. Why does he think that he's going to get anywhere with Batsheva? Well, he knows she has influence, right? But also, there's a sense here, his father had never rebuked him, we were told. He has a sense of entitlement. Everything is coming to me. So I'm going to go ask for it, and I'm going to get it. Malbim, in his commentary here, adds that he tries to present it as harmless. In source number 6, what's the big deal? There's nothing wrong with this. So what does Batsheva do? So I'm reading this story, if I've never read this before, I think at this point, she's going to also say off with his head, right? She's going to do something to have him, shut down. It's not what she does. But Torah Batsheva says, Tov, good. I'm going to go talk to the king about you. And she goes to him, to Shlomo, to talk about Adoniyahu. And the king gets up to greet her, as is proper, it's his mother. Vayishtachu bows to her. Vayeshiv he sits back on the throne. Vayasem kisei le'em hamelach, and he puts out a throne for the queen mother. She sits right next to him on his right side, and she says, I have this little favor to ask of you. Al tashav es panai, please don't reject me. And the king says, Shalimi, ask mother. I would never reject what you want. So he says, okay. Yutanas Avishag shunamit ladoniyahu achicha leisha. Let Avishag be given to your brother Adoniyahu as a wife. And Shlomo turns to his mother. He says, why in the world are you asking me to give Avishag to Adoniyahu? Why don't you just ask for him to have the kingdom? He's my older brother, right? He has Evyasar and Yoav. It's a side story. Because Evyasar and Yoav were invited. I'm sorry, I mixed that up before. Evyasar and Yoav were invited to Adoniyahu's party before. It was only Shlomo who was not. And Shlomo says, he takes an oath. Vayishava hamelech Shlomo b'Hashem. Shlomo swears by God that he is not going to let Adoniyahu get away with this. And sure enough, he sends Benayahu ben Yehoyada, who kills Adoniyahu. Case closed. Why did Batsheva go along with it? Why did she follow through with this request? Why didn't she say off with his head herself? Why didn't she send Benayahu ben Yehoyada after Adoniyahu? So Abarbanel says she doesn't necessarily recognize the seriousness of the matter. I'm sorry. I have a hard time accepting that, especially given her general approach to Adoniyahu. I think she's pretty suspicious of where he is. I don't think that's what it is. Malbim suggests maybe she thought this will help Shlomo. It's like a peace offering. He can have Abishag. Presumably someone at some point is going to ask her what she wants to do. And that will make peace between Shlomo and Adoniyahu. But I don't think so. Not when we've seen the way she approached David regarding Shlomo in the first place during Adoniyahu's coup. She planned every word. She played on every note that she needed to play in order to make sure that her son would become king. She is well aware of what's going on here. And I think what she's doing is exactly what she did when she stepped out of the room when Nassan was presenting before, which is, I don't need to be seen to be the hammer. I just need to be the hammer. I don't have to have everybody see that I was the one who shut down Adoniyahu, as long as I make sure that Adoniyahu will be shut down. That's all. She is in control of what is going on. She knows Shlomo, smart king that he is, smartest man of all time, right? That puts him in the 51st percentile. She knows that Shlomo is going to figure it out. And what I think we see with Batsheva here is that even when one is a victim, and she starts our story very much as a victim, wisdom and subtlety can help to win the day. She can overcome what happened to her. But more than that, she teaches us a lesson about what to look for in a spouse. Because there's one more piece in Tanakh with Batsheva. And people don't realize that this is Batsheva. But we quote Batsheva every single Friday night, week in and week out. Take a look, please, at Proverbs chapter 31, page 1615. The book of Mishlei of Proverbs is credited to Shlomo HaMelech, to King Solomon. However, King Solomon is not the author of chapter 31. The words of Lemuel, Melech, the king, Masa Asher Yisarto Imo, the prophecy with which his mother disciplined him. Lemuel is a name for Shlomo HaMelech. His mother is Batsheva. Batsheva is the author. And what does she say to him? She says, son, let me give you some advice. Here's my advice. Number one, al titain lanashim chelecha. Don't give your strength in pursuit of women. Drachecha lamchos melachin, al lamlachim lemoel, al lamlachim shesoyayin uleroznim eishechar. She says, make sure that your behavior is appropriate for a king. It's not right for kings to drink a lot. You shouldn't drink and forget the laws of Hashem. Leave drink for those who are embittered. And she keeps on going, talking about drinking and what he should do instead of drinking and instead of pursuing women. What should he be doing? Pasuk Chet, sentence 8. Psach picha le'ileim. You should work on justice. Open up your mouth for the mute. That's what you should be doing. Psach picha shvot tzedek. Open up your mouth. Judge righteously. B'din ani ve'evyon. Take care of justice for the pauper. That's what you should be doing. That's your opening 9 psukim. There's an expansion of this in the Gemara in Sanhedrin, Daf Ayin. And then what does she do after that? The rest of the chapter, which we know as Eishes Chayil. She is trying to tell Shlomo what he should be looking for in a wife. That's not my chiddush. That's not my novelty. I brought it on your sheet in source number 8. It's Ibn Ezra. Ibn Ezra says, in the beginning of the book, Shlomo talks about how his father rebuked him regarding wisdom. V'siper kan, and he says here, she'isarto imo Batsheva achar mos aviv l'lamdo chokhmah, that his mother rebuked him to teach him wisdom here after his father had died. And so Shlomo is getting guidance from his mother, And that guidance includes the Eshes Chayil poem. What does Eshes Chayil mean? Don't tell me woman of valor. That's not a word. Valor it doesn't apply here. Accomplished woman is the way the art scroll does it. Not too bad, but we can do better. Chayil is often in Tanakh a reference to wealth. It is often a reference to strength. It is often a reference to a trusted person. What it means is what is often called in English a person of substance. Substance not only in terms of material means, but someone of character, someone of dignity. That's what someone of Chayil is. Wealth and strength and honor, that's what you're talking about. And she says, here's what you should look for. And you go down the list in Eshes Chayil, and what you find here is somebody, they do a nice job actually of summarizing in the margins here. Judgment and diligence, cares for the poor, takes care of her household, speaks wisely and kindly. It is often argued that Batsheva has somebody specific in mind. Shlomo's great-grandmother, who is Ruth. Why? Because Ruth is the only person in Tanakh to actually be identified as Eshet Chayil. Boaz says, I know Eshet Chayil. You are Eshet Chayil. So Ruth can be the reference point that Batsheva is using, but frankly, the other person who fits the role is Batsheva herself. She fits this role. She is the one who is diligent. She is the one who uses judgment. She is the one who looks after the household to make sure he's going to sit on the throne. She is the one who speaks wisely. This is all part of who Batsheva is herself. Parenthetically, one wonders, and this is entire supposition, discard it as you will, but I wonder, given what we know, that Shlomo had such trouble finding a wife, right? Whether it's 1,000 women from Koheles, you find there in Koheles, he says that he's having such trouble finding someone. One wonders if it isn't because, look who his role models are. You have to live up to Batsheva. You have to live up to Ruth. Lots. One wonders if that isn't, or I wonder anyway, if that isn't the challenge. But the point for us is that Batsheva is the matriarch who manages to make sure things are going to go the way they should. She rises from that terrible the terrible event that brings her together with David in the first place, and she becomes the controller of her own destiny. She becomes the one to put Shlomo on the throne. She overrides Nasan's advice, the advice of the prophet, in order to see this through. And then after that, she is the one to thwart Adoniyahu when he tries an end around to get himself back onto the throne. All of it happens because of her. We're going to continue with Mincha in the small Beit Midrash in 2 minutes. I can't take questions, or we won't be able to work with the timing. I apologize. The 4:30 is Mincha, and then we resume here at 5 o'clock. And again, remember, we have the ice cream siyum at 9.